Hello readers, welcome back to Reads with Room B, and today we are in the Enchanted Forest, and that means it's time for fairy tales, and to make up for the video with no sound, we'll be reading that story again. So now I shall hand you over to our resident bard, my heart's own Mr. B. Enjoy! See you later!
Hello everyone. Today I will be reading you the story of the 12 Brothers. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Once upon a time there lived happily together a queen and a king who had 12 children, all boys. One day the king said to his consort, "If the 13th child whom you are about to bring into the world should be a girl, then shall the 12 boys die, that her riches may be great, and that the kingdom may fall to her alone." He then ordered 12 coffins to be made, which were filled with shavings, and in each a pillow was placed, and all of them having been locked up in a room, he gave the key thereof to the queen, and bade her tell nobody about the matter. But the mother sat crying the whole day long, so that her youngest child, who was always with her, and whom she had named Benjamin, said to her, "Mother dear, why are you so sorrowful?" "My dearest child," she replied, "I dare not tell you." But he let her have no peace until she went and unlocked the room, and showed him the 12 coffins filled with shavings. Then she said, "My dearest Benjamin, these coffins your father has prepared for yourself and your 11 brothers, for if I bring a little girl into the world, you will all be killed together and buried in them." And as she wept while she spoke these words, the sun comforted her, saying, "Do not cry, dear mother, we will help ourselves and go away." But she said, "Go with your 11 brothers into the wood, and let one of you climb into the highest tree which is to be found, and keep watch, looking towards the tower of the castle here. If I bear a little son, I will hang out a white flag, and you may venture home again. But if I bear a little daughter, I will hang out a red flag. And then flee away as quickly as you can, and God preserve you. Every night I will arise and pray for you. In winter that you may have a fire to warm yourselves, and in summer that you may not be melted with the heat." Soon after she gave her blessing to all her sons, and they went away into the forest. Each kept watch in turn, sitting upon the highest oak tree and looking towards the tower. When 11 days had passed by, and it came to Benjamin's turn, he perceived a flag hung out, but it was not the white flag, but the red flag, which announced that they all must die. As the brothers heard this, they became very angry, and said, "Shall we suffer death on account of a maiden? Let us swear that we will avenge ourselves. Wherever we find a maiden, her blood shall flow." Thereupon they went deeper into the forest, and in the middle, where it was most gloomy, they found a little charmed cottage standing empty. And they said, "Here we will dwell, and you, Benjamin, as you are the youngest and the weakest, shall stop here and keep house while we go out to fetch meat." So they set forth into the forest, and shot hares, wild fawns, birds and pigeons, and what else they could find. These they brought home to Benjamin, who cooked and dressed them for their different meals. In this little cottage they lived 10 years together, and the time passed very quickly. The little daughter, whom their mother the queen had borne, was now grown up. She had a kind heart, was very beautiful, and always wore a golden star upon her brow. Once, when there was a great wash, she saw 12 boys' shirts hanging up, and she asked her mother, "To whom do these 12 shirts belong? For they are much too small for my father." Then she answered with a heavy heart, "My dear child, they belong to your 12 brothers." The maiden replied, "Where are my 12 brothers? I have never yet heard of them." The queen answered, "God only knows where they are. They have wandered into the wide world." Then she took the maiden, and unlocking the room, showed her 12 coffins with the shavings and pillows. "These coffins," said she, "were ordered for your brothers, but they went away secretly before you were born." And she told her how everything had happened. Then the maiden said, "Do not cry, dear mother. I will go forth and seek my brothers." And taking the 12 shirts, she set out at once straight into the great forest. All day long she walked on, and in the evening she came to the charmed house into which she stepped. There she found a young lad, who asked her, "Whence dost thou come, and whither goest thou?" And he stood astonished to see how beautiful she was, and at the queenly robes she wore, and the star upon her brow. Then she answered, "I am a king's daughter, and am seeking my 12 brothers, and will go as far as heaven is blue until I find them." And she showed him the 12 shirts that belonged to them. Benjamin perceived at once that it was his sister, and he said, "I am Benjamin, thy youngest brother." At his words she began to weep for joy, and Benjamin wept also, and they kissed and embraced one another with the greatest affection. Presently he said, "Dear sister, there is one terrible condition. We have agreed together that every maiden whom we meet shall die, because we were obliged to leave our kingdom on account of a maiden." Then the maiden replied, "I will willingly die if I can by that means release my 12 brothers." "No," answered he, "thou shalt not die. Hide thyself under this tub until our 11 brothers come home, with whom I shall then be united." She did so, and when night came, the others returned from hunting, and their dinner was made ready. And as they sat at the table eating, they asked, "What is the news?" Benjamin said, "Do you not know?" "No," they answered. Then he spoke again, "You have been in the forest, and I have stopped at home, yet I know more than you." "Tell us directly," they exclaimed. He answered, "First promise me that you will not kill the first maiden who shall meet us." "Yes, we promise," they exclaimed. "She shall have pardon. Now tell us all at once." Then he said, "Our sister is here." And lifting up the tub, the king's daughter came from beneath, looking most beautiful, delicate, and gentle in her royal robes, and with the golden star upon her brow. The sight gladdened them all, and falling upon her neck they kissed her and loved her with all their hearts. Now she stopped at home with Benjamin, and helped him in his work, while the 11 others went into the wood and caught wild animals, deer, birds, and pigeons for their eating, which their sister and brother took care to make ready. The sister sought for wood for the fire, and for the vegetables, which she dressed, and put the pots on the fire, so that their dinner was always ready, when the 11 came home. She also kept order in the cottage, and covered the beds with beautiful white and clean sheets, and the brothers were always contented, and they all lived in great unity. One day, when the brother and sister had made ready a most excellent meal, and the others had come in, they sat down and ate and drank, and were full of happiness. But there was a little garden belonging to the charmed house, in which stood 12 lilies, which one calls also African marigolds. And the sister, thinking to give her 12 brothers a pleasure, broke off the 12 flowers, intending to give each of them one. But as she broke off each flower, the 12 brothers were changed, one by one, into 12 crows, and flew off into the forest, and at the same moment the house and garden both disappeared. Thus the poor maiden was left alone in the wild forest, and as she looked round, an old woman stood near, who said, "My child, what hast thou done? Why didst thou not leave the 12 white flowers? They were thy brothers, who are now changed into crows." Then the maiden asked with tears, "Is there no means of saving them?" "There is but one way in the whole world," said the old woman, "but that is so difficult that thou canst not free them. Thou must be dumb for 7 years. Thou mayest not speak nor laugh, and if thou speakest but a single word, even if it wants but 1 hour of the 7 years, all will be in vain, and thy brothers will die at that single word." Then the maiden said in her heart, "I know for certain that I shall free my brothers." And she went and found a tall tree, into the branches of which she climbed, and passed her time spinning, without ever speaking or laughing. Now it happened once that a king was hunting in the forest, who had a large greyhound, which ran to the tree on which the maiden sat, and, springing round, barked furiously. So the king came up and saw the beautiful girl with the golden star upon her brow, and was so enchanted with her beauty that he asked her if she would become his bride. To this she gave no answer, but slightly nodded with her head. So the king, mounting the tree himself, brought her down, and placing her upon his horse, carried her home. Then the wedding was celebrated with great pomp and joy, but the bride neither spoke nor laughed. After they had lived contentedly together 2 years, the king's mother, who was a wicked woman, began to slander the young queen, and said to her son, "This is a common beggar girl whom you have brought home with you. Who knows what impish tricks she practised at home? If she be dumb and not able to speak, she might still laugh once, but they who do not laugh have a bad conscience. The king would not at first believe it, but the old woman persisted in it so long, and accused the queen of so many wicked things, that the king at last let himself be persuaded, and she was condemned to die. Now a great fire was kindled in the courtyard in which she was to be burnt, and the king, standing above at the window, looked on with tearful eyes, because he still loved her so much. And now she was bound to the stake, and the fire began to lick her clothing with its red tongues, and just at that time the last moment of the 7 years expired. Then a whirring was heard in the air, and 12 crows came flying by and sank down to the earth, and as they alighted on the ground they became her 12 brothers whom she had freed. They tore away the fire from around her, and extinguishing the flames, set their sister free, and kissed and embraced her. And now, as she could open her mouth and speak, she told the king why she was dumb and why she never laughed. And the king was highly pleased when he heard she was innocent, and they all lived together in great happiness to the end of their lives. The end. Did you enjoy that? I hope so. Now, you all take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.